Welcome to the 2019 archery elk season. As you've seen, I'm already into elk. Pause. I'm going to interrupt real quick and address the elephant in the room. I did not record very much on this hunt, and as I was going through the footage, I realized I didn't really have a story. So I figured I could interject and narrate and tell you guys what was going on, fill in all the blanks for you. But today we are going to go through and visit the hunt, enjoy the hunt of this elk on the wall behind me. So I hope you guys enjoy. I got set up probably within 100 yards of where they were bugling from. Made a few cow calls, they went silent. I waited, thinking maybe one might come in quietly. Nothing ever came of it. Then I heard a few bugles further down the drainage, so it looks like they moved off. I'm thinking it might be a group of bachelor bulls, one of the smaller groups that I saw. And they heard a cow and thought it might be the big herd. And they ran away so they don't have to fight the herd bull. I don't know, I was just speculating, but they did not come in 2 cow calls. Today at least, but they were bugling like crazy at 10 in the morning. But I'm gonna hang out in this area, look and listen. Something else might move in, they might come back if I'm sitting here quietly, who knows. I got good thermals for a while, moving up the hill. So sit here for the mid part of the day, but I got here before the evening. I'm here for 12 days, so I'm not trying to be too aggressive right now because I don't want to blow stuff out and then not have things to hunt. So I'm going to take my time. I just found a group of cows. I'm going to get closer so you can hear me better, even though it looks stupid. I just found a group of cows. Closest one's 482 yards. They're bedded right at tree line. It's the evening, so the thermals are dropping down. 6 turned into 9, and then more coming out of the forest, headed up. I'm gonna get out of here before before the wind does something and ruins this for me. But my plan is to get back over here real early to where they are now and get underneath them, so the morning thermals are coming down, and hopefully they feed out of the alpine right back down into where they are now. I don't see any with antlers, but they're mating right now, so where there's cows, there will be bulls. This is right in that same hole where the 3 bulls were bugling earlier. I'm surprised I don't see any. They could just be out of sight from me right now, who knows? But I don't want to mess this up, so I'm gonna get going. I did leave my big camera over in the tent because I just came to make water and peek over this for a quick scouting trip. So I can't zoom in right now real well. I'm just gonna try to do it with this. Maybe you guys will see a little something. In the next clip, I just jumped straight to the next evening. I don't even talk about those elk at all. I did end up seeing them again, but not until after they had seen me. I put a stalk on them in the tundra, hoping to intercept them. They busted out and spooked, ran off. Luckily, it was just a group of cows. I spent the rest of the day glassing and calling into a couple different drainages. Nothing ever came of it. I eventually made my way over to make water in the evening, and that's what you're about to see. Hello there. I haven't been recording a whole lot because I'm in for 12 days, and I need battery to last for when something happens, because I can't kill my battery just filming my day-to-day, getting cool shots or whatever, and then have no batteries when an elk finally comes in bugling. But I felt it was important to show you guys this. There's no water right now. Well, there's hardly any water right now. So I'm getting water by scooping out of this little spring. Look at this. It is just bubbling right out of the ground. I use my little cup from my wind burner to scoop it into my bladder and my Nalgene so I can then stereo-pen it. It's slow going, just a few ounces at a time, but I'm gonna go do an evening sit for elk. I'll hopefully show you guys something cool in one of these next few days, hours, whatever. Well, I haven't recorded a whole lot. I saw that big 6-point bull and came back to camp that night, and I'm pretty sure that's where I left off. I'm sitting out in the rain right now. Not in the rain, I'm on my porch, but I'm sure you can hear the rain, which is really fitting. You'll see that in a little bit. But I sat, watched those elk for the whole rest of the evening until it got dark, and made my way back to camp. I tell the story about how I made a big stalk, a big loop around, got on them, but it just didn't pan out. It was still a super fun time. I was so glad to finally get in range of some elk and have a good opportunity. I've been so focused on trying to kill an elk that I've been pulling out the camera. As you can hear right now, it is stormy, so I'm back in the tent and still daylight. But yeah, so kind of catch you up real quick since I haven't been great about pulling out the camera. Saw that 6x6, put them to bed, bugled all night. They ended up being bedded inside of my tent, which made the next morning kind of hard. Leave out all the details there, but I had to make a big loop, stalked into about 70 yards of them, holding up my elk decoy in front of me. The jack pines and willows were super thick, so I couldn't see any elk until right at the very end. Saw a couple cows. He was still bugling, so I figured I'll just bugle at him, and he's going to want to come fight me because I'm in the middle of his herd. I knew cows got below me, and I could hear them mewing and chirping, etc. But cows below me, cows all around me. Bugle at him, and he runs off with his cows. We bugled back and forth for a little bit, but he had no interest in trying to fight me. He got his herd out of there. I did steal 3 of his cows though, so I guess if I was an elk, that would have been successful. Sorry, it's like sleeting or hailing or snowing starting. Getting clumps of ice hitting the tent now. But yeah, so that was that day. Didn't really see much the rest of the day. Been seeing elk on and off this whole time. Went and sat by some cows. Nothing worth recording. I've been trying to conserve battery versus just telling you everything that goes on. But next few days are supposed to be kind of stormy. So I'm gonna ride out tonight, hunt tomorrow, see what's gonna happen. I'm debating about packing up a bunch of my gear and hopping the mountain and hunting the drainage on the other side. Let's go for that, a little bit change of scenery. We'll see what happens. Hopefully I just hear elk bugling tonight or in the morning and I can get after them and do that. But here's a storm. That's my insulation. Put them on both my poles. That way not a metal pole sticking out of the ground. I'm not worried about it because I'm camped kind of at tree line, so there's stuff tall around me and I got the peaks all around me too. But you never know what could happen, so that's my precaution. But now I'm just gonna lay here and read. So the storm ended here and in the video. As the storm ended, I started to hear bugling from the tent. So that next morning I stayed in my sleeping bag longer than normal because after the rain stopped I was hearing bugles and mews, and it was close enough that I didn't want to spook them by getting out of my tent. So I got out when it was light enough to see, ended up glassing elk across the basin, right in the same area where I'd had my previous encounter. I started to make my stalk this big loop around the basin to try to get over to them. The wind was really weird. It was going uphill in the morning instead of downhill, so I couldn't really make a good play on them. I got adjacent to them, waiting for a good opportunity without spooking them. The wind never got good, so I ended up following them out of the tundra down into the trees, covering quite a bit of distance. During this time, I eventually saw an elk bedded down in the forest. I'm going to overlay a photo here. Turns out it was a bull. I stopped about 100 yards where I could see his body. I didn't want to bump him, I didn't want to pressure him, didn't want to spook him. I didn't know if there were other elk, where there were other elk. So I sat there, watched him for a couple hours. Then I eventually started hearing some cows and calves, and some bugling started, and it turns out I was sitting within 100 yards of this entire herd. They got up, fed, and moved off, still being really vocal, so I shadowed them, keeping the wind right, staying above them, as now it's midday, so all the thermals are going uphill. Follow them through the forest, follow them around the mountain, and we're calling back and forth a little bit, but they're not responsive enough to come in, even though they are responding. At one point, I'm working my way towards the herd. The cows are calling to me. I bugle, he bugles, and I get this idea in my head that if I pretend to be an elk and call to him, like I want to fight him, like I'm going to steal his cows, maybe I could get him to close some of the distance. So in one hand I have my bugle tube, in my other hand I have my bow, and I bugle and start kicking and stomping and smashing brush, just making this big ruckus, sounding like I'm a big ruddy bull, wanting to fight, just destroying everything around me, and I start walking towards the herd. I end up walking into the herd. At one point, I walk up to this cow at like 12 yards, just bugling, and I'm kicking everything, stomping, and she picks her head up and looks at me and goes right back to eating, like doesn't even register that I'm a human. I finally get inside, I locate the bull, I'm about 40 yards from him, but the aspens are just so thick, I don't have an opportunity for a shot. So I'm trying to figure out how I can sneak an arrow through here, calling at him, trying to get him to close distance. What I didn't realize is there was elk downhill of me as well. I was in more elk than I realized. They ended up seeing me because I was so focused on what I was doing and spooking off, so they got all the elk to spook off. They run off. They're still being vocal. At this point, I'm like, okay, that didn't pan out. Stop, take a break. Still wearing my long underwear from the morning, so I take that off, have a snack, send a few text messages about how exciting all this stuff is. And then I hear a bugle sound off downhill from me. So I decide this is another opportunity. I'm gonna go for it. Go down the hill, call a couple times, he answers. I work my way down to the clearing. Working my way down is important because I'm camped about 5 miles in, and I've been following these elk all morning for a couple miles back towards the trailhead, which is ideal. I mean, you guys know the ending. You saw the antlers on my wall. Back towards the trailhead. I get towards this clearing, and I hear the elk sound off. I sneak in closer where I can get a visual. I see him. Pull up my binoculars, and it's like, oh, that's good enough. I didn't even count points. I just saw a nice big elk, and I was like, that is good. I'm not going to hesitate at all to send the arrow this way. Pull out my rangefinder, 59 yards, let the arrow go. I can hear it hit him, I can see it hit him. He jumps and kicks, takes a few steps. Pull up my binoculars, and it looks like I hit him kind of far back, so all of a sudden I'm like, oh no, I wounded this elk, he's going to get away. But he ends up just standing around, walking a few more steps, laying down, puts his head down, eventually tips his head to the side. At this point, I'm sending some text messages to some friends, letting them know what's going on. This is important in a little bit. Letting them know what's going on, that I let an arrow go, I know the elk is hit. I wait 45 minutes, go out into the field. It's like a tundra, marshy area. Go out there, find the elk, he's dead. He was quartering away pretty heavy, so I hit him far back, but the angle was good enough to go through the guts, through the diaphragm, up into the back of the vitals, the full length, 29.5 inches of arrow. He's dead right there. My first archery elk, my first bull elk, and it was such a fun and exciting hunt to be in animals all day long, hearing them, calling to them, interacting with them. Day 6 of a 12-day hunt. At this point, my buddies that I've been texting were on their way. They grabbed their gear, grabbed their packs, and they were making the drive to come help me get this animal out. I can't thank Mark, Tyler, and Ryan enough for helping me get this bull out in one trip. They made the drive up that afternoon. We hiked out the 3 miles in the dark, got all 250 pounds of meat and the head and antlers out in one go, and I went in a couple days later to get the rest of my gear that was still at camp 5 miles in. It was such a great season. I'm glad that I could share this with you guys, and you guys got to experience some of it, even though I did a horrible job of videoing. There's some photos, there's some footage, but I got an arrow and an elk, got a freezer full of meat, and I couldn't be happier. Thanks for watching.